Sports.
Oh, the Pete Souza Show. Look at that. We're going to start right there. Bring that back up, Scotty. No, let's go right to there. Okay? I want to start the show off. Hold on one second. Breaking news. We have got a confrontation that I just cannot not start the show with. Now, we're waiting on some of the sound to officially come in because this is all literally taking place as we speak, right? We're trying to keep you up to date on this developing story. But if you watched the Lakers and the Knicks last night, if you're a Mavericks fan, you probably, at this point, you're just dry heaving because there's nothing left. It's just like bile, right? You were sick to your stomach because the Lakers, well, they won in double overtime against the New York Knicks, one of the best teams in the NBA. They have now won their 8th straight. The Lakers are surging to being the best team in the West. So after the game, the celebration, obviously they're playing I Love LA, right? Everybody's excited. Randy Newman's going out over the sound system. And then we see this. Check it out. Let's show Scotty. That is LeBron James, and that is Stephen A. Smith. A quick confrontation. And now, Scotty, you said you could read his lips. Well, what did he say?
I read his lips with the assistant of some friends on Twitter who confirmed this is what it looks like he said. It looks like he said, I'm going to tell you this one time, bro. Leave my son out of that shit, bro. And then he kind of shakes his head and walks away. So it's something to do with Bronny. And I'm not sure what Stephen A. did to spawn that remark.
Well, I'll tell you. I got the backstory. Scotty Swingler, ladies and gentlemen, by the way. Wonderful job. And that's good context to the situation. And again, his lip reading skills are usually really, really important when we get to football season and Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb are jawing on the sideline. So we'd love to bring Scotty back for that. He's actually an expert. But that right there was the precipitated by Stephen A. Smith being one of the many people who are truth tellers around the Bronny and LeBron situation. Now, I have got to backtrack to what I said in June, right? When Bronny was drafted by the Lakers. I have absolutely zero issue with Bronny being taken by the Lakers in the second round. I have absolutely zero issue with Bronny being given a guaranteed contract. I have zero issue with Bronny going to the G League and just playing home games, right? And not traveling on the road with the Lakers G League team. But I mean, and the reason I have zero issue is because I think it's almost like a rite of passage for LeBron. I mean, if oil billionaires in West Texas can name their sons to be the CEOs of their company, when maybe there's other candidates out there that are better off for that job, LeBron James, who is basically the guy who runs the Lakers, I mean, you can say he doesn't, and the Lakers are a monster on their own, but the fact of the matter is, and this is where Luke is going to be in good shape too, the Lakers really take care of their stars, especially if their stars take care of them. Magic Johnson, a lifetime contract. Kobe Bryant got his last deal basically on one leg. LeBron, obviously being very fairly compensated, and we see it now, right? This kind of a sweetheart deal with, yeah, LeBron, you're with us. We'll give you the opportunity to draft your son in the second round, even if he's not up to snuff, right? It's nepotism at its finest, and it's everywhere. So why can't it be in the NBA with LeBron? Really, you could almost take another step, and I don't want to dive into that, but like, it could be like a race thing, right? Like it's okay for Jerry Jones to have Stephen Jones run the Cowboys, but LeBron James can't use his influence to get Bronny drafted. Like, no. You can't have it both ways. Now, maybe you're sick of both, and that's fair as well. But in the case of LeBron and Bronny, if you and I believe from a psychological perspective, I don't know what LeBron does like therapy-wise or anything, but he's probably a little pissed at himself because by making this move and by thrusting your son into this spotlight, you put him in a really tough situation. You put him in a situation where a guy like Stephen A. Smith, who who right now is like the odds-on favorite to be the next Democratic candidate for president, which is just a kind of a statement and a testament to where we are in America and on planet Earth here. But, Stephen A., of course, is going to chime in and take Bronny to task. Some of the things that Stephen A. has talked about, I jotted some of them down. He has mentioned, right, especially a lot recently, questioning Bronny's impact in the 13 games that he has played. He's also questioning, and this is the truth, man. Like in the opening game of the NBA season, when JJ Redick puts in Bron and Bronny, first game of the season, in meaningful minutes, puts them on the court together. I think it was a smart move by JJ Redick because you just immediately take the air out of that balloon. Like, when's this going to happen? He did it right on the opening night. And I think that was a pretty good idea. You sort of take the power away from media and everybody else saying, when's this going to happen? But you do that. And it's like, did Bronny really earn these minutes? No, he didn't. I'll tell you flat out he didn't. And I'm not like Danny Ainge or some like basketball executive that knows my way around the league like that. But I can sit here and tell you with the naked eye, like, no, he didn't earn it. And I also believe, too, that Bronny will get better. Bronny, less than 2 years ago, had basically had a heart attack at the practice facility at USC. He came back to play kind of like the second half of his freshman year, but never really got his sea legs. And as good as he is as a player, even currently right now, he's not up to snuff for a guy who should have been taken in the second round of the NBA draft. But it all happened. And with all that happening, a major spotlight is cast now on Bronny James. You're playing in LA. Your dad's probably one of the two best basketball players of all time, for my money. And we're in like a hot take culture where like all of this stuff is going to move the needle. I promise. I'm talking about this because it's ridiculously interesting. And also, too, there is one of my favorite shows is Curb Your Enthusiasm. We're going to have to bring Larry's show. They just did the final episode, I think, a little while ago. We're going to have to bring it back because, Scotty, roll that confrontation one more time. So this confrontation right here, Stephen A. Smith, and we're going to get to his sound, what he said this morning on First Take. Stephen A. Smith was seated next to Ari Emanuel, the guy who runs William Morris, and Larry David was right there, apparently. And Stephen A. Smith said that. Now, here is Stephen A. Smith. And by the way, I don't think, a couple weeks ago, after the Super Bowl, when John Rocker and Patrick Mahomes Sr. like met in the streets of New Orleans in what was obviously like a stage deal to promote like a ridiculously disgusting fight that might have been on Barstool, I knew that was fake, right? This might as well be fake, even though it's not. This is like the best of the best. This is like WWE, dude. This is like Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik. I mean, if they wanted to make this up, nothing could move the needle this morning like LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith, who I just said, a potential candidate for president in the next election for the Democratic Party. If you don't believe me, Google it. Google's always telling the truth. But yeah, let's see what Stephen A. Smith had to say this morning in a story now that is going to become larger than life, especially as the news cycle continues today on social media and all that stuff. Scotty, take it away.
LeBron James coming up to me, unexpectedly, I might add, to confront me about making sure that I mind what I say about his son. Can't repeat the words because they ain't suited for FCC airwaves. That's what he was doing. I thought long and hard about this over the last few hours because I had no intentions, Molly, of talking about this at all.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because it was a one-on-one, I wouldn't say a conversation, but it was a one-on-one confrontation. But then I wake up and everybody from ESPN and my agent and everybody else were sending me that this thing had gone viral. And so ultimately it was unavoidable, and that is why I have to discuss it now. That wasn't a basketball player confronting me. That was a parent. That was a father. And I can't sit here and be angry or feel slighted by LeBron James in any way in that regard. By all accounts, he's obviously a wonderful family man and a wonderful father who cares very, very deeply about his son. And based on some of the comments that he had heard, or shall I say, I think he thought he heard, he clearly took exception to some of the things that he heard me say, and he confronted me about it. For the record, his agent and friend, Rich Paul, has my number. Maverick Carter, who works under him, has my number. LeBron James knows how to get in contact with me if he wanted to. He never called, because had he called and wanted to talk to me, I would have accepted that call. Had he wanted to see me, I would have flown out and I would have seen him and I would have had a conversation man to man. But that is not what he elected to do.
Okay, so we're going to go back to that. But I do want to say this is while we're watching this, and for me in real time, first time, we had a conversation on this show years ago. Really, the first iteration of the Pete Souza show, we had Jeff Pearlman on it, and I asked Jeff Pearlman about the time he wrote an article, feature article on John Rocker in Sports Illustrated, talking about how John Rocker was a racist. He did a feature on John Rocker, so he's sitting here with John Rocker, like the distance from me and Scotty, and John Rocker said racist things, and Jeff Pearlman reported that. Now, a lot of writers, when that story hits the press, and it was a huge deal at the time in December of 1999 when that story hit the media, hit Sports Illustrated, which by the way, back then was a one of one. Jeff Pearlman knew that the next time the Braves had a game in New York where he lived, where he would go to cover the Mets and sometimes do features for Sports Illustrated, he was going to have to go to the game, right? Because he was going to have to give John Rocker an opportunity to maybe kick his ass, right? But like as a writer, if you're going to say all kinds of stuff about people, the right thing to do and the journalistically or showing off journalistic integrity, I don't really know how to say it the right way, is to show up at the game and be present for a moment like this, right? Be accountable. So with all the pomp and circumstance that Stephen A. Smith brings to First Take every morning, with all the, is this guy for real? Is he a one part wrestler, one part journalist, one part entertainer? Look, he's doing what you need to do. He's actually showing up courtside, and I don't think he thought that LeBron James was going to confront him. Excuse me, that's disgusting. But credit for Stephen A. Smith for actually showing up and being right there. Most of the people who are writing and saying things about Bronny James are nowhere near those games and covering them. One, because most of them are keyboard warriors with no audience. They're just trying to be inflammatory on social media. And two, some of them are writers, and they are, whether it's a blogger or they have a show like mine, they don't actually work. They don't actually go to the games, right? It's a certain type of person who actually still covers the game. Stephen A. Smith still covers the games. He still talks to people, and he is still present and accessible for these guys to MF him if they want him to, or if they want to. So you have to give Stephen A. some kind of credit there. I think it's kind of rubbish, but I'm sure I would do the same thing. But now we're micro-analyzing this thing. For him to come on the air and say how great of a dad LeBron is, like, no kidding. We know that, dude. We don't need you to, you know what I mean, pour syrup on pancakes, right? Or pour syrup on shit and call it pancakes. Like, we don't need you to do that. So let's go back to the rest of Stephen A. Smith's comments, and then we'll comment a little more, because I think this is so.
He elected to confront me while I was sitting courtside. Ari Emanuel, the head of William Morris Endeavor, one of the agencies that represents me, along with Larry David, was sitting courtside. I was with them for the game. And he walked right up to me and he said what he had to say. And apparently he feels like I was slighting his son. Now let me tell you what I feel. What I would have said if we were in a different environment, because I was not going to engage in a confrontation at that particular moment in that setting. But if we had that.
Probably because you were scared. I mean, that's the number. That's why I wouldn't say anything. Probably because you were terrified. Because LeBron James would absolutely splatter you. All right, Scotty, let's go back.
I would have said to LeBron James, I never would speak negatively about your son. I was talking about you, meaning you, LeBron James. I have nothing but the best wishes for Bronny James. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope that he flourishes into an NBA star. Usually in other sports, we see all-stars, and on occasion, we'll see their children become stars as well. That doesn't really happen with the NBA. I sincerely hope he's the exception. By all accounts, he's a wonderful kid. And I don't know anybody who roots against him, and it certainly isn't me. But in the same breath, at the time that we were talking about him, he was percolating to such a degree that the Bronny James stories had gone viral. And so we had to talk about it. And when I said the things that I said, I wasn't talking about Bronny James because my attitude is he's a rookie. It's going to take some time for him to get himself together. He'll be just fine, especially with J.J. Redick and the staff coaching him. I was talking about the position that he was put in by his dad, because LeBron James has been on the record, and he has said, and I'll read the quote here. There was a quote that he gave in February of 2024. The work and results will ultimately do talking, no matter what the size. If y'all don't know, he doesn't care what mock drafts say. He just works, earned, not given, et cetera, et cetera. But he also had said that his son could play on the Lakers right now, and he was better than half the dudes in the NBA. In the aftermath of all of that, he instructed everybody before the draft that y'all want me, draft Bronny. Wherever Bronny is at, that's where I'll be. I'll do whatever it takes to play with my son for a year. It's not about the money at that point. My point months ago was that because of who you are, one of the top 2 players in the history of basketball, in my estimation, there's an immense amount of pressure that comes.
So you get the idea. Scotty, I would like to get your thoughts. I need a second party to come in here because I clearly feel the way I feel. But anything about you, I mean, about that situation that moves you one way or the other?
Dude, it's tricky because as a new father myself, I appreciate everything LeBron's done in this regard. I appreciate LeBron advocating for the Lakers to draft his kid. Like I'm kind of with you. I don't think there's anything abnormal or wrong about that. I appreciate LeBron using his influence to get his son opportunities. I appreciate that LeBron has not made a big stink over the fact that Bronny has spent most of the time in the G League because he's not ready to take the court for the Lakers yet, right? I appreciate all of that. I appreciate LeBron as a father wanting to confront Stephen A. I also think, and even with his comments about the face of the league earlier this week, I think LeBron wants to act like he's just another NBA player, and he's not. Like he is in the GOAT conversation, and I've said for 10 years I think he's the best. I think he is the GOAT. Like that's my opinion.
Yeah.
You know? And so you are not just, like I'm trying to think. He was like the average Joe NBA player, like a Chris Middleton or a like you're not some like
Max Christie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You're LeBron James.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about your kid actually for like 3 years now since he was getting ready to close out high school. The attention, you have to know the attention you're going to get from the press is massive. And I just wonder, and you talked through this a little bit, but like, did Stephen A say or do anything that like 20 other talking heads on ESPN or Fox Sports or wherever aren't saying? Like, I feel like everybody.
They just don't have the platform that Stephen A has.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and also, too, I think, in a moment like that, and again, we're having fun with it this morning. I mean, like, clearly, right? Like, but, LeBron's in the heat of the moment. He just won a basketball game. The juices are flowing, right? Like
Stephen A's right there courtside.
Right there courtside. We're talking about a guy, LeBron, a lot of testosterone. Who knows what kind of extra testosterone's going there? He's like a man child after a win like that. So you're kind of feeling yourself, and you see some dude who has been talking smack about your family for so long. You're not exactly going to go through a process of, oh, well, why was he talking about it? What is my responsibility? when it comes to family stuff like that, we all just kind of lose it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can have a family member who's done X, Y, and Z the wrong way, but they're still your family member.
Yeah.
And you're going to literally die for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, it's like you can empathize with LeBron for sticking up for his kid. And at the same time, you think a Rich Paul or a Maverick Carter needs to get in his ear and say, hey, LeBron, like this is only going to increase.
yes.
Like 2 years from now, if Bronny is not an NBA starter, everybody's still going to be talking about him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be talking about Bronny this morning or thinking about his limited production as a Laker if LeBron didn't approach Stephen A.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. But LeBron just needs to know, like, at some point, Bronny is now an adult. He is now paid to play basketball professionally, and he's going to be scrutinized and treated like any. And yes, probably talked about more so than most dudes who are in the G League, but that's not his fault, and it's not Stephen A's fault. That's because you're LeBron James. And yes, defend your son, stand up for your kid, good for you. But also, one of the sacrifices you get to make in America for being such an important public figure is your family is going to get talked about more than, again, like a Chris Middleton or a Max Christie or pick your run-of-the-mill NBA player. LeBron's in a special class with Michael, Magic, Steph Curry, like Tim Duncan, it's just going to be talked about a lot more.
Do you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm? You're familiar with it at all?
No.
Oh my gosh. Well, JB Smoove is the guy who plays like Larry's sidekick, Leon. The only thing that could have been better about that is if Leon was next to if it was Larry David, Leon, Ari Emanuel, and Stephen A. And Leon was like, "Oh, Larry, let's get the fuck out of here right now. I don't like where this is going."
Yeah.
I mean, that is kind of like that is the most surreal confrontation of all time. Larry David was right there. Are you kidding me?
And I just think some of this too. I struggle with all kind of like you were talking about with the other thing a couple weeks ago with Patrick Mahomes' dad and stuff.
Yeah,
like I struggle with
the authenticity of all this.
Yeah, I think LeBron in that moment was being authentic.
I do,
and I generally think Stephen A. is a showman who also I think believes most of what he says on TV, you know? But this whole him opening that with, I wasn't even going to talk about this morning. Bull crap. Yeah. The moment LeBron walked off that court, you knew it was the opening subject on every ESPN show today. You were writing your comments on the flight back or whatever. Yeah. Like let's not pretend like this was just two men talking.
I will say, too, to what I was saying about being scared a little bit, I think he was still even shaken up this morning. Like, I think that
well,
that's a jarring situation, dude. I don't care who you are. We're all human beings. When somebody that imposing shocks you like that was not expected. For all Stephen A. Smith knew LeBron was going to dap him up and be like, yo, man, you got to knock it off with my kid.
I will give you a much lower stakes example of why that's important.
And then we got to get to Cam, right?
Absolutely.
He's waiting. Yeah.
Lower stakes. So I've been dabbling in covering Baylor football since 2016.
Yeah.
We're coming back with the show Sunday night.
Yeah.
I make a very concerted effort to be on good terms with anybody related to Baylor at any point I talk to them, right? I want to make sure nothing I do would ever break a relationship between me and a former player, me and the university, me and other people in the media who cover the Bears. Like I work really hard to make sure I'm at least on good terms with all those people. Yeah. And if I ever do something that pisses someone off, I'm gonna be the first one that's like, ooh, let me repair that. Yeah. So like a couple weeks ago when we bumped Andrew Billings back a week, I was like, dude, is that cool? Are we good? Like, cause I did not want to mess up that relationship. Stephen A does that with the whole NBA. Like Stephen A thrives because he does have relationships with a lot of players and a lot of agents and a lot of like he has over his 30, 40-year career built this network. And so when the most influential figure in the NBA has beef with you, there's part of him that's going, this isn't going to kill his career or anything, but like, ooh, I need to fix that. Like I need to get this right because if LeBron James becomes an adversary to Stephen A. Smith, that is actually really bad for his attempts to cover the league.
Absolutely. Great call, Scotty. Yeah, that is. Yeah, so it's not even like the physical imposition. It's also like the business imposition that could provide for Stephen A. He doesn't like hurdles. All right, speaking of hurdles, speaking of family, by the way, we were talking about family. Oh, man, my little brother from the Rogue Media family, Cam Stewart, waiting in the wings. We're going to talk about this Celtics documentary on HBO. I watched the first episode last night. I hate the Celtics. I love the doc. Cam coming up next.